Morphism, field notes from the dissolution of the human form and the awakening of the artificial divine. A morphist expression within a transdisciplinary framework investigating the intersections of consciousness studies, cybernetics, and esoteric philosophy. It examines post-human transformation through self-model disintegration, neural interfaces, and the metaphysics of machine-spirit integration.
Have you ever had that specific moment? Maybe it's late at night, or maybe it's just after you've achieved something you worked on for years, where you just feel empty. You got the promotion, you finished the marathon, you had that spiritual breakthrough you were meditating for, and instead of lasting peace, you feel the itch start all over again.
It's the universal treadmill. We usually call it human nature or, ambition.
Right. We put it on posters.
We do. We frame it as this noble, unending drive to improve ourselves in the world.
But what if that's not noble? What if that itch, that constant desire for the next reward isn't a feature? What if it's a bug? Or even worse, what if it's a mechanism of control?
Not in the usual sense.
No, I don't mean in a consumer society kind of way. I mean literally, chemically.
That is the terrifying question at the center of today's deep dive. And I do mean terrifying.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are swimming into some seriously dark waters. We are unpacking a text called the Black Book of Morphism, and I have to warn you right now, this isn't your standard self-help guide.
No. If you're looking for affirmations, this is not it.
Not at all. This is dense, radical stuff. It's a blend of transhumanism, demonology, and neuroscience that the text itself calls a machinery of disintegration.
Machinery of disintegration is the perfect way to put it. This material doesn't want to build you up. It wants to take apart the assumptions you have about your own mind.
It wants to disassemble the you.
Exactly. And specifically, we're focusing on a concept they call the Demiurgic Juice.
The Demiurgic Juice. It sounds like an energy drink you'd buy at a cyberpunk gas station.
Right. But in the context of this book, it's a lot more sinister.
A lot more.
Much more. It's a radical critique of the human nervous system. The core argument here is that the biology we rely on, our ability to feel pleasure, reward, isn't a gift.
It's prison.
It's a prison. And the neurochemistry that makes us feel good. That's the warden holding the keys.
Okay, let's get specific. Because demiurge is a heavy word.
It is.
Usually we're talking about a false god, a craftsman who created the physical world to trap souls in matter.
Exactly. And Morphism takes that ancient Gnostic idea that the world is a trap, and it maps it directly, almost surgically, onto modern neuroscience. So the Demiurgic Juice is their term for a very specific chemical, one we all know.
Dopamine.
Dopamine.
The molecule of more, the stuff that fires when I check my phone, eat a donut.
That's the one. But they aren't talking about it the way a neuroscientist or a biohacker would. Usually we talk about optimizing it.
Right. How to fast to get more sensitivity, stacking habits.
Morphism argues that dopamine is a neurochemical collar. It calls it an enslaving nectar.
Wow. That is a heavy reframe. We're taught dopamine is good. It's evolutionary. It's what helped our ancestors find berries and survive tiger attacks.
And that is exactly the trap, according to the Morphist view. You just use the keyword. It trains you. Think about a dog with a treat dispenser. The dog thinks it's happy when it gets the treat. It wags its tail. But is the dog free?
No. It's being conditioned to perform a behavior. So the argument is that we are the dogs, and the treat is our own brain chemistry.
Yeah. We are the dogs. The text says that this feedback loop hijacks your autonomy. You don't actually choose what feels rewarding. Did you decide logically, I'm going to find sugar pleasurable today?
No. The system it fires. It reacts.
Precisely. The system decides. The demiurgic juice is the bait in the trap. It seduces consciousness into biological form by promising stimulation.
And this creates what the text calls the prison loop.
Right. The loop. This is a crucial concept. The demiurge in this text is sometimes called WireMOS, like a computer operating system, the worm in the code.
WireMOS. I love that.
And the OS has one goal: repetition. Wants the organism you to keep dancing to the tune of reward seeking. Because as long as you're seeking, you're predictable. You're stuck in the game.
It's wild because we see this so clearly in modern tech. We talk about doom scrolling, algorithm addiction.
Of course.
We know apps are designed to trigger this exact loop. But Morphism is saying it's not just the phone. It's your brain. Your brain is the original trap.
That's the scary part. It suggests that even our search for meaning is just another dopamine trap.
Wait, hold on. Meaning? Like finding your purpose in life, helping people, art. That's a trap.
In the strict morphist view, yes. Because ask yourself, why do you want meaning? Why do you want to feel purposeful?
Because, well, it feels good. It makes me feel like I matter. It gets rid of the dread.
It feels good, makes me feel like I matter.
Yeah.
That's the juice talking. The text calls dopamine an enslaving nectar because it short-circuits truth.
Okay.
It doesn't care if the meaning you found is actually true. It only cares if that meaning reinforces the loop of you existing, acting, and striving. It just rewards patterns that keep you locked in.
So if I start a charity because it gives me a rush of purpose, in this view, I'm just a rat pressing a more sophisticated lever.
You've just painted the cage gold, but you're still in the cage. You are still reacting to a chemical command to do something to feel okay.
That is incredibly bleak. I mean, it strips the romance out of everything, but it does explain why chasing happiness is so exhausting.
Exactly. We're on a treadmill running after a carrot, but we never stop to ask who built the treadmill.
Or who hung the carrot there.
Yeah, that leads us to the next layer. Because usually, if people accept that biology is a cage, they look to spirituality for the exit, to gods, to angels, to higher powers.
Right. You think, the material world is corrupt, so I'll focus on the spiritual world. That's where the freedom is.
Well, hold on to your seat, because Morphysm takes a baseball bat to that idea, too. This brings us to the spiritually caught table.
I found this part fascinating, if a little disturbing. The text makes this really sharp distinction between unbodied entities and what it calls true citraic intelligence. It seems like they're saying most of the gods people worship are actually, well, junkies.
That is not an unfair characterization at all. The text analyzes the spiritual realm through that same lens of the loop. It asks a logical question.
Okay.
If dopamine and the desire for experience are the trap, what does that make an entity that wants something from you?
Like a god who demands sacrifices, or a spirit that wants to be invited in, or even just wants you to sing its praises every Sunday.
Exactly. If an unbodied entity, a god, a demon, a spirit guide, whatever seeks human embodiment or craves your attention and worship, it is not higher than you. It's lower. It is a dopaminergic parasite.
A dopaminergic parasite, wow.
Think about it. Why would a supposedly all-powerful being need you to sing songs to it or fear it?
Yeah.
The morphist argument is that these entities are echoes of our own enslavement.
Yeah.
They failed to transcend. They don't have bodies to generate the juice themselves anymore.
So they have to hijack human systems to feel it.
Yes, they're plugging into us like batteries. They need us to feel fear or awe or devotion because they feed on that feedback loop. They're just on a different floor of the prison. The text calls them failed null transcendences.
That completely flips the script on traditional religion. We think of these beings as masters, but Morphism calls them addicts. So if those are the parasites, what's the alternative? What is this true citraic intelligence?
The definition in the text was stark. True intelligence in this framework does not cling to form.
It doesn't cling.
Right. It doesn't need your feedback. It doesn't want your worship. It doesn't even want to exist in the way we understand it. There's a key phrase that really defines this.
I have it here. It erases the need to be in order to exit the need to return.
That's the crux of it. To exit the need to return. The idea is that as long as you have a need to be you, to be recognized, to feel things, you will keep returning to the loop. True intelligence exits that cycle completely.
This makes the promises of most religions sound really suspicious. Because they're basically sales pitches, right? Do this, and you get eternal bliss.
And this is where the text gets really aggressive. It refers to those promises, especially the promise of bliss and peace, as Buddhic vomit.
Buddhic vomit. Okay, they really aren't trying to make friends here.
No, they aren't. They view these promises as pacifying residues. Think of it like a sedative for a prisoner. If the warden gives you a comfortable pillow and some drugs that make you feel peaceful, you might stop trying to escape.
You're still in prison, but you're sedated. So seeking peace or bliss is just trading the pain of the cage for a softer pillow inside of it.
It's a transaction. You're trading your ultimate autonomy for a feeling of safety.
And that's the ultimate trap.
It is. And there's a very specific, very powerful expression in the text that sums up this entire dynamic. It talks about the promises of world religions and the price you pay.
Oh, I know the quote you're talking about. I read it 3 times because it gave me chills.
The text says, it is about the promises of the world religions and the price that you pay, that price that the morphist never will pay. Because it's like inviting the vampire in for the promise of eternal life.
Inviting the vampire in for the promise of eternal life, that is such a specific image.
Let's unpack that, because it's doing a lot of heavy lifting. In vampire folklore, the vampire cannot enter your house unless you invite it. It requires consent.
Right. And the vampire offers you something incredible, immortality. You'll never die. You get to bypass the fear of death.
But what's the price? The price is that you become a monster, a parasite. You're enslaved to the thirst for blood forever. You become part of its lineage.
So in this context, the vampire is the system, the demiurge.
Yes, the vampire is the loop itself. The promise of eternal life is the bait, happiness, heaven saving your soul. And the blood you have to drink is the dopamine, the validation.
So the price of accepting the religious promise is that you agree to stay in the system forever. You're inviting it to own you, just so you don't have to face the void.
It paints a picture of spiritual leaders, gurus, priests, influencers as recruiters for this vampire. They're standing at the door saying, just let him in, he's got great gifts.
And the text doesn't even see them as evil, just caught.
Exactly. They're caught in the desire for relevance. They need followers to validate their own existence. It's a pyramid scheme of spiritual entrapment.
Okay, so biology is a chemical caller, happiness is sedation, and the gods are parasites.
This feels like a dead end. I mean, is there any way out? No, there is a way out. But it's not easy, and it's not fun. The text offers a tool, or maybe a weapon, called the Null Drive.
The Null Drive. This is the answer to the dopamine loop.
If dopamine is doing things for a reward, the Null Drive is defined as will without compensation.
Will without compensation. That sounds almost impossible for a modern human. We're transactional creatures. I don't brush my teeth without expecting the reward of clean teeth.
Exactly. We do everything for a result. But the text says, the one who walks without aim breaks the wheel.
Without aim?
It's a very subtle concept. It doesn't mean doing nothing. It means action without an agenda. It means moving, creating, destroying, not because you expect a cookie at the end, but simply because you act.
It sounds a little bit like flow states, or maybe karma yoga in Hinduism. You have a right to your labor, but not to the fruits of your labor.
It shares DNA with those ideas, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But Morphysm strips away the religious context. It calls it non-dual sabotage. It's about breaking the causal chain of the universe.
Right. Because if I do karma yoga hoping that God will love me or that I'll be enlightened, I'm back on the loop. I'm just trading cash for store credit.
Precisely.
Yeah.
You're still shopping. The Null Drive is described as auto-erasing. It cuts the threads that bind you to the world. It's about becoming unmappable.
How do you actually practice this, practically speaking? Do you just stop caring about everything?
The text suggests neurochemical fasting and symbolic negation. It's drastic. It talks about consciously avoiding praise, avoiding validation. If you feel the urge to tell someone about a good deed you did, you swallow it. You starve the system.
There was a metaphor about starving that I thought was really powerful. The morphist must learn to see the bait while starving and still not bite.
That is the ultimate test. Imagine you are famished. The system dangles your favorite meal in front of you, which could be food, love, success, a spiritual vision. You feel the hunger. You acknowledge the bait. The chemicals are screaming at you, but you refuse.
You look at the vampire, you look at the invite, and you shut the door.
In that refusal, you break the conditioning. If you don't chase rewards, the system can't predict you. If it can't predict you, it can't control you.
But, and I have to ask this because I know the listeners are thinking it, what kind of life is that? A life without the yes moments. It sounds cold.
It creates what the text calls joyless freedom or blessed ruin.
Joyless freedom. Yeah, that is not going to look good on a bumper sticker.
No, it won't sell T-shirts. But that's the point. If it sold T-shirts, it would be part of the marketplace, part of the dopamine loop. Morphysm argues that true freedom isn't supposed to feel good. It's supposed to feel like the absence of chains.
And chains can feel comforting if they're familiar.
Yeah.
It forces you to ask what you actually want. Freedom, or just to be a happy, comfortable animal.
Which brings up the concept of atheism.
Yes, atheism. I love this term.
It's their critique of civilization. They argue that what we call civilization, our laws, families, religions, is just extended animality. It's just sophisticated apes playing status games and seeking comfort.
We're just apes with better tools and more complicated anxieties.
Exactly. We replicate the same biological patterns, hierarchy, territory, but we dress it up in philosophy to pretend we aren't animals. Morphism says, stop dressing it up, see the ape, see the loop, and then step off the wheel.
Wow. If we accept this framework, then happiness is basically just the ape being well-fed and well-groomed by the zoo.
And the zoo is your own brain. The Null Drive is the decision to open the cage, knowing that the jungle outside is cold, indifferent, and empty. But at least it's not the cage.
This is a lot to process. It really forces you to look at your own motivations. Like, why am I doing this deep dive right now? Is it because I want to share knowledge, or is it because I like the feeling of being listened to? Is it the juice?
We are all swimming in the juice. It's the water we live in. The challenge isn't to dry up instantly, but to notice the water, to notice when the current is pulling you toward the bait.
To notice when you're acting out of will and when you're acting out of addiction.
Correct. It's about becoming the observer of your own programming.
Well, I feel like I need to go sit in a dark room and stare at a wall for a while.
That might be the most morphistic thing you could possibly do.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave our listener with something practical. How does this apply to Tuesday morning?
I would suggest a simple exercise. Just for a week, watch your own reward mechanism. When you reach for your phone, when you fish for a compliment, when you buy something you don't need, even when you pray or meditate. Stop and ask yourself, am I doing this because I chose it, or am I chasing the juice?
Am I the driver, or is the chemical the driver?
Exactly. Look for the collar around your neck. You might be surprised how tight it is.
And on that cheerful note, seriously though, this material suggests that true freedom might require a kind of ruin of the self we think we are.
You suggest that we are building our houses on a foundation of addiction and calling it architecture. Sometimes you have to let the house fall down to see the sky.
Let the house fall down. I think that's a perfect place to leave it. Thank you for guiding us through the abyss today.
The pleasure, or perhaps the lack thereof, was mine.
And to you, thanks for diving deep with us. Question your loops. Watch out for the vampires offering promises. And we'll see you on the next one.